Hello, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to talk about Pyro Pete, just because I want to. So Pyro Pete, the raid boss of Mr. Torg's Campaign of Carnage. To my mind, a lot of players' first raid they could reliably kill, and often regarded so simple it can be barely considered a raid by some. I personally, yes, Pyro Pete was the first raid boss I was reliably able to kill in my baby stages of Borderlands Endgame. However, not only do I think Pyro Pete has an array of unappreciated mechanics going on, but he's also a strong example of just good raid boss design in Borderlands. Thank you, Mr. Torg. And also corrosive for some reason. I guess they had to give him something to separate him from his story kill iteration. On top of this, he gains a supernova, a map-wide attack that, when hit, the player will suffer a permanent damage over time of that element, unless they run that elemental immunity on their shield. To counter this, there are a few select places you can break line of sight to take cover, however, these are far apart, and you don't get much time to react, making it very much an attack that you need to plan for. And it helps that Pyro Pete's attack pattern is set in a way that this nova happens every 35 seconds-ish, so if you're skilled enough to keep track, and skilled enough to counter boss in a way that you're always in range of these pieces of cover, you can counter this attack entirely. This is brilliant. To go a whole fight dodging every single one, it's tricky, but a reward for practice and experience. But why bother? If there's no real consequence, you can just run to a valve, turn on the taps, watch the DOS off, so why bother learning? Well, enter Pyro Pete's Enrage Timer. Enrage timers are common in raid bosses across video games. It's typically a background timer that's constantly ticking down. When it hits 0, the boss decides you're taking too long, powers up, and becomes exceedingly difficult to beat. Pete has this, though instead of a literal time limit, it's built into these valves. Every time you activate them, a few small enemies will spawn. Subsequent activations result in these enemies gaining levels every single time, to the point they can become so high level you're no longer able to deal with them, making surviving in the arena that much more difficult. So by using the aforementioned cover to avoid the nova, you are also prolonging this organic enrage timer. On the flip side, if you don't need the water, spawning ads can give you kill skills and other bonuses. It's a strong tactic, though of course will speed up the enrage timer. Another example, the fight for rewarding mastery. Easy to learn, difficult to master can loosely apply here, though Pete isn't difficult to master. But, you know, it's not perfect. Pete has drawbacks, as does every raid in Borderlands. The rest of Pete's attacks, for example, are what we've already seen in the story version of Pete. A major reason and dislike when they use story bosses as raids is because they're not designed for it and they lack the depth in the core moveset. They just take them, amp them up, rehash them into the raid, and it's just not up to raid standard, and Pyro Pete's no exception. His attacks are basic. He activates flamethrowers, you walk backwards. When he fires mortars, you can walk forwards, or just get out of the way. And while this already is a bit more advanced than a lot of BLT fights, it's all he's got to offer in his moveset, outside of the basic punch if you get too close, which they all have. Onto the arena though, it's good. Maybe a tad cramped, but I wouldn't increase it more than 5 or 10% or so. There's no annoying geography, there's ammo machines on a timer, which is a cool feature which they didn't really return to when they should have. A small line of sight breaks for cover that importantly do not offer in continued safety. These line of sight breaks that I mentioned earlier, if you stay there, he'll just come and run you out, which is great. Forced movement. Welcome a fight that encourages the player to use all of the arena, and not just one section Terramorphous. Then on to a few closing notes on Raid. I know, very short video, but I just wanted to talk about Pete. Pete hasn't got the typical raid slag resistance, so that mechanic can be fully utilised. The helmet is a brilliant touch, not being able to crit him until the shield is down, unless you bring a certain unique or legendary allowing you to bypass said shield, knock the helmet off, and enjoy the crit spot for the whole fight. The dot novas being able to be countered with an immunity shield is just another way for the fight to reward gear preparation. We've got hundreds of unique items in Borderlands, so rewarding individual ones in a niche use case is great. So outside of the small moveset, which isn't exactly an outlier when discussing Borderlands 2 raid bosses, I'd say Pyro Pete's got a lot going on for him, even if it's subtle. And even if you have moved far beyond the skill level needed to best this fight, to the point it's become boring and simple, which is the case for a lot of people, I don't believe you can deny a lot of the small brilliances that the fight brings, such as the organic, interactive rage timer. It's just an example of a great idea that isn't the forefront of this fight. It can be ignored if you're sufficient enough at the fight itself, but a tool that can be used or thought about if needed. Is Pete the best? Nah. Far from it. Is he exciting? Not particularly. Is he boring to fight? To many, yeah. But Pete was many players' entry into raid bosses, into, you know, this activity that we know and love and expect from Borderlands games now, and it can still provide engagement for more advanced players if they wish to pursue it. I think Pete deserves a little more respect than he gets. I don't claim that he's top tier, but he's also not bottom tier. He's a perfect example of a benchmark raid boss. Meet this level, at least. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you got any thoughts as well, I'd love to hear it, opinions, etc. on Pete's or raids in general. Have a wonderful rest of the evening. Stay safe, stay awesome. I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.